the work of a securities offering. We're going to go a little bit deeper today to talk about what really goes into a securities offering. And I'm Shawn McBride. I'm a business lawyer by training. I worked at some of the largest law firms in the U.S., and then I started my own law firm. I guess it's been over a decade now. Time flies. And I work with a lot of private businesses on how to raise money, how to grow their business, and as part of that is occasionally the securities offering. Taking stocks, taking debt, taking whatever, and offering it for sale. Those things, if it's a interest and it's tied to the profitability of the business, it's probably going to get deemed a security under securities law, which means you're subject to the regulation, federal level here in the U.S. of the SEC, and then also potentially under state blue sky laws. What typically happens with smaller companies and private companies is you look for an exemption. You're not going to register the security. You're not necessarily going to go out there and list it on a stock exchange or go through the full registration process. What you're going to do is look for an applicable exemption. That's where your work gets scoped out. One of the first things you'll probably do with your lawyer is sit down and say, well, which exemption are we going to use? How are we going to get onto that path of exemption? What is the proper method that's going to fit our circumstances? Now, there's different exemptions from 506, which is one of the most common ones of Regulation D. That is a very common exemption. Reg CF, the crowdfunding one, has been popular. Reg A Plus has become popular in recent times. Now, each one of these, and you can find checkboxes and grids out there, each one of these has different dollar amount limits potentially. Some don't have dollar amount limits. The types of investors you can bring in, how you bring them in, what you have to do, how you have to structure the transaction, such as using a portal. In the case of a Reg CF transaction, one of the ways you get that exemption is to put those securities for sale on a portal, and so you've got additional issues and compliance there. But all of this together points to the fact that you need to figure out how you're going to do that offering. And then there's a lot of work that goes into it. Almost universally, you're going to end up doing disclosure documents. Now, potentially, if you do an offering like a 506 with all accredited investors, there may not be an exact listing of what you have to give the investor under securities law, but you're going to want to protect yourself from a liability standpoint and potentially from a fraud claim by still preparing disclosure documents. It's highly recommended. So you're going to need to work through what is the mix of information. Now, what information are you collecting and how intensive is it? This is a big exercise. You're going to need to describe your business to the investor. You're going to have to put out your financials. You're probably going to go through those financials, explain them to the investor, talk about your management, your leadership. Now, you can use some forms for public offerings as a guide, and that's what I typically do. Take one of these public offering forms and then use it to guide me. So that is a possibility there. You can start there. But you've got to do that process, and that takes time and energy. And it's an intensive process. So you want to budget time, money for legal advisors, but also for your internal team. They're not going to be working on other projects when they're working on this. It's going to take a lot of time. But you're really going to expose your business financially, management-wise. You're going to talk about who you are. You're going to also talk about your business plan, what your risks are. There's a lot of pieces that go in there. So you want to get a good checklist. Your lawyer can probably provide that to you and say, this is the types of things we need to disclose. You can start collecting that information. But if you're getting into a securities offering area, you're looking at a lot of work. There's no real two ways about it. There's no way to do it without a lot of work. If you have questions or comments that are general in nature, I welcome you drop them below. But remember, your questions and comments are not confidential. Don't put anything there you don't want other people seeing. I hope you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for another video soon.